I'd now like to welcome Karin Svingby up to the stage. Karin is the Director of Corporate Responsibility, Projects and Partnerships at the Ericsson Group. She holds a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Chalmers and has been working in telecoms for more than 15 years, holding management positions ranging from sourcing, product, service development, portfolio management, and sales. Karin currently works with defining and leading multi-country and multi-partner projects within sustainability for the Ericsson Group. Karin's here to talk about Ericsson's work and their approach to scalable development. Welcome, Karin.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here and to be asked to present at this seminar. I think it's highly interesting and it's a very diverse group. And it's really one of the ways we want to work with a multi-stakeholder. We believe truly that what Angela said and what we've seen before is that it's a combination of different knowledge, different areas to come in is the way to go forward to actually look into these challenges and also the opportunities that exists. So what I will talk about today is to actually taking it from the other presenters, but also doing the scale up question. What do we mean by scale up? We all have discussed scale up. And coming then from Ericsson and the company, we start with the scale and then we go downwards. So I will take it from the other way and look at the possibilities of the technology, the inbuilt possibilities. But let me start from the beginning. So, what is it really we're talking about here? We talk about access to information. If you look into the market economy, that is one of the main fundamentals, that people have access to information. That drives business. But looking from a telecommunications company, we deal with information. Spreading information, connecting people with different types of information. And buyers with sellers, any type of commodity actually. Insurance companies with farmers. Doctors with patients. Teachers with students. Or with students' parents. And what is the information about? It's a lot about the price. We've been talking about that. What is the price for something? Can I understand what the cost is? Which is the best price? Where is the thing I need? Location. For example, I have an example from a village in Ghana where the teacher actually didn't know where their students were in the morning. So location, call to the student and ask them, or through the parents, or through the person who has the phone. The student is not coming to school today. What is the issue? Or the teacher not coming to school to teach, and the headmaster can call and ask, where are you? This type of different types of information, and that's a location example. Quality. What quality has the information? What quality has the things we're talking about and sending out in the information channels? Having a choice, not having just one price. We want to have a variety of information, just as we're used to do, and everyone wants to have that. Is the price better in that market for bananas or in that market? Where should I go? Should I go today, tomorrow? We are all very used to rating services to get to understand what this is a good service, what this is a good provider of something. We know quite well that we can put stars on different services in our apps we have. But this is, of course, something that is useful for everyone. So, making that more of a cloud and a concept, I want to start on the big picture here. This is the type of information that anyone, anywhere needs to have to make a good, informed choice. And I also actually include this in a way of the educational content. Information, education, development, it all fits very well together. So coming from this bigger picture, then, it is the access to very good information that people look for. We do have the solution, and many have touched upon this today. This is the picture we use, trying to explain what it is really we have at our hands. By the end of Q1 2012, there were more than 6 billion subscriptions. And we talked about, it's quite even to the number of people on our Earth, but just as Daniel said before, he uses 2 SIM cards for his service, or 4 SIM cards. So in this picture and figure, it actually includes even device to device, or device to person. And that is something that will give all of us another opportunity, which we haven't even started to think about, what that really means. When different things can talk to each other and inform each other. And we don't only talk people to people. And that opens a total new, innovative sphere where we can think about and discuss. What we also see, which is really interesting here, is of course, again, we have Africa 130% of penetration rate, which means that, of course, people have more than one phone. We can see the African continent is up to 63%. And this is then the mobile subscriptions. The last time I looked upon sub-Saharan Africa, the internet connectivity points, where you have cafes, etc., is 2%. So the mobile connectivity is the one that actually has the outreach. So why is Ericsson interested in this, and what is Ericsson? What is our position? I think it was first speaker here, we talked about the ecosystem of ICT and telecommunications and connected that to agriculture. Ericsson is the network provider. We build the towers, we build the switches, we build everything around the world, which actually makes the information being able to flow. We don't sell phones. We're not your mobile operator. We sell to the mobile operators to make them give the business. And by doing that, we of course has as a business idea to make more people use the services, to have more traffic through in the system, because that's part of our business logic. So what we do is we actually help the operators to find new business opportunities and also find how to make that happen. What could be notable is that we are present in 180 countries. We have customers in 180 countries. We have offices in over 150 countries. So we have a local presence all over the world. 40% of all the mobile calls and data is going through equipment we have put on market, which means that we actually do have quite a lot of local knowledge. And also, we have been part of developing this system. How does it work? And I also think this is part of where we can contribute and where we do contribute. How can we make it scale? The thing about this, we start from 6 billion, and we see device to device could be 50 billion. We build everything we do for 60 billion, 50 billion scale. So how can you make a system work for 60 billion? What is it you do for that? And that is what I want to have a discussion with you about, is that knowledge and that technology has been driven very much on a commercial basis. And all of us can actually learn from that and see how we can use that leverage. And that's how we want to how we are contributing. We do that in 2 different ways. When it comes to my area, we have environment, energy and climate change area, but the communication for all area, where we look into socioeconomic benefits from the possibility of actually spreading information and connecting. And when it comes to communication for all, giving this scale and this view of the world and our knowledge about the technology, we have said that we want to support the Millennium Development Goals through our technology, through our competency. But we are the technology persons. We don't know a lot about health. We don't know a lot about agriculture. For us, it's information. It's data flowing. But we don't know exactly how that should be done perfectly well. There's a lot of other people who have that as expertise. But we have our customers, the mobile operators, who actually has the access, who has the network in the cities. So what we do is we form partnerships with the mobile operators, which is we meet anyway daily on our customer basis, and then we pick one of the issues. It could be farmer information, it could be health information, and we work with the experts who has the global reach as us, but also the local knowledge. And we build proof of concept pilots. Those pilots are designed for scale. And then I mean scale again. It's designed for 6 billion. We may pilot it for 1,000 people, but all the blueprints it's made to be super large. Which means that when we see that the concept works, we don't have to think about how to scale it. That is the pilot, is to verify the scalability model. We also do not work with funds, actually. We work from a sustainable business model. What is the income generation in the system? Because you cannot support the IT lab if you don't have an income to actually upgrade and update. There's a lot of maintenance questions inside in delivering ICT services. Where is that income coming from? And as a private commercial partner, of course we can't work with funds. We work with normal commercial business cases together with with the mobile operators. And that is also the blueprint. And to actually get the furthest out of this, we do impact assessment. That is part of our analysis also to the operator. Why should they go into serving this service? They have to have an impact assessment. They have to show to the government, we actually do this. They have to show their stakeholders and their investors, this is a profitable business, even if it's not as profitable as giving mobile broadband to the urban businessmen. So all that data we're involving and including in our projects. And to understand a little further about this and our way of looking at these issues, we did a study last year, 2011, together with Histra, TNO, ICO, AFD, and Orange. This is then a French mobile operator. And the idea is here that we were looking into 240 social entrepreneurs using ICT. And the study is called Leveraging ICT for the BOP. There's 2 printouts in the room here, but it's available on the net on that full study. And what we looked for is social entrepreneurship, where the projects have turned into a continuous service, which is not funded, which is actually commercially based. And what we found, and this is it's an extract of this, is we divided the information in 2 different parts. Of course, when it comes to which of the different branches are actually more or less funded and what happens, and what about the different areas of the world. So the light blue is actually projects which have lived the market-based mechanisms. They do have an income to cover their costs and further development. And the dark blue are the projects which have been grant-based, which are dead pilots, which actually didn't live from the pilot phase. Of course, this is not the exhaustive list of all projects in the world, but it actually is a global view of it. And what we can see is that in agriculture, there is there's quite a big number of projects that actually have lived this mechanism through. Most of them are, of course, in finance, which is I think it's not so hard to understand, because in itself, it's part of the need you have. You have to, M-Pesa is one of those shining examples, but there's others. What you can see in health, it's extremely hard to find projects that actually can be working on the commercial mechanisms, which of course is something that we think about. But also what you can see in Africa and Middle East, there is a very high level of projects which actually didn't live. More than double of them didn't find the commercial mechanism. And I think this finding is something that we have seen again today and discussed. What is it that made these 1/3 actually live and become businesses that then can live and thrive within these countries. And these are the projects that we look for. These are the things we look into. How can we help and support that? Sorry, the wrong one. Many of these projects we have also seen, they do lack a number of different support, which could be competence support, ICT support, and different types of support. But most importantly, I think, is the model of outreach. And Daniel touched about that as well. How can you continuously support a large-scale base of farmers, which actually the information, how can you reach out to them, how can you recruit new subscribers to the service, and how do you actually work with that subscriber base? That is one of the biggest challenges. And there is 3 different models described in the report on the pros and cons. Coming from that angle, I would like to share with you 2 of these services which we have been developing in the area of agriculture, just to explain a little more in detail on how we use our competence and our knowledge. So one of the services we've been working with for quite a while is called Ericsson Mobile Auction. It's an SMS-based system, and it's an auction tool. For you who live in Sweden, you may have heard of Tradera. This is Tradera for farmers, or for any small businessman. As I started from the beginning, crops, anyone who wants to sell something, you're a small scale farmer, and you want to sell it to someone, you want the right and the best price for that. What is the tool to do that? This is one of the examples. And we know there is a lot of different ICT farming tools out there. What we do is that we use the operator as one active partner in this service. And you can, of course, add a number of different things to this as information and farming. This specific tool was trialed in India and the Kerala region with 1,000 farmers, and it was launched in Macedonia in the middle of 1st of May, actually, as part of the farmers' support in Macedonia. So we're looking into different parts of the world. And this is also part of how we work. You can use it in one part of the world, but you can also use it in other part of the world. It should be replicable and scalable. So I want to walk you through this picture a little. So let's think again about this thing. The ecosystem. You have a farmer. You have someone who knows something, the content provider, we call the expert in the farming information. You have the operator, who actually is responsible for your subscription and the mobile phones, etc. And you have the buyers. And you need to connect these together. What we have done is that we have used the inbuilt capacity of the mobile operators already implemented services for mass SMS. That is a basic functionality in all operators. There's a basic functionality for keeping records of the phone numbers, otherwise you can't be charged. So what we did, we used that built-in functionality to add on this mobile auction tool. So what happens is that the farmers, they subscribe, just as Daniel said, on a monthly fee, and wanting to be part of this database where farmers and buyers connect to each other. They put up information. What do I want to sell? To what price do I want? And for how long time is the offer valid? The buyers also subscribe to the service, and they actually pay for it. So they pay for the service of actually maintaining the solution as such, but the farmer paid to subscribe and uploading their information. And this is a model that has been quite successful in other parts of the world, where you have one user of the system who has a better wallet, who actually pays more than the others. So this is something to look into. And what you can do as well to get more income into the system is, of course, you can have paid advertisements to get into the system, to maintain it, and make sure this system works as such. We work with the agricultural organizations to promote this, because that is of course, one of the most challenging things. How do we get people to know this exists and how to use it? How do we help people when it doesn't work or when you have a question from a technical point of view? And how can you extend the service to have weather information, add-on issues? But at this point in time, the system only contains the possibility to make many small-scale farmers to bid and buyers to actually buy. What you can do with this is, of course, you can think about the possibility not to go to the market and the improvements in having people going from the farm, waiting for someone to come and buy it. Maybe we know there's a lot of scrap. There's a lot of waste in the markets when the crops is not sold. You can control the distribution. You can have a central hub where you actually do get all the crops together. And you have multiple of opportunities. This is something, the very first thing we did was to shift this in the Dominican Republic. So that has been tried out there in how you can actually manage small-scale farmers and the logistics chain in relation to this auction as well. I don't have time to show you exactly how it works, but this is, again, the embedded functionality of the commercially implemented system that rolls out in an extraordinary speed because we all see it is giving us a benefit. The second thing I wanted to share with you is then something called Mobile Weather Alert. It's a service we have been piloting with 1,000 fishermen in the Kalangala Islands in Lake Victoria in Uganda. It's a partnerships together with World Meteorological Organization, the Uganda Department of Met, and MTN, which is one of the operators in Uganda. And together we have trained the Uganda Department of Met forecasters to make a very specific forecast for a specific user group, for a specific area. And that was not part of their skills when we started. So that's part of the development of that organization. The MTN sends out the message together with Grameen Foundation to fishermen who gets a forecast every morning at 5 o'clock. And if you're good and know about Lake Victoria, you know that roughly 5,000 fishermen die every year on the lake. It's 100 every week. And they do that partly because they can't swim, they don't have life vests. And of course, the weather at Lake Victoria is extremely changeable. So by having this forecast every morning, they can take an informed decision. Will I go out to this specific area for where the forecast is and fish or not? Or what we learned when we interviewed them, if there is rough weather, I will actually use my money, which I earned yesterday, to fuel up a little more on my motor. Because if there is high waves, I will then manage to get back, which is one of the main reasons for causalities, is that they don't have enough fuel to get home on high waves. And if you drown in Lake Victoria, you're never found. So this is one way, and another part of the agriculture area where you can use the mobile phones. What is even more interesting in this one is that we talked about the phones as such. Do they have phones? Who uses the phone? And we know that very many people may not have their own phone, but there is schemes, you have your own SIM card, there is schemes to actually share phones, etc., and that's improving. And all the fishermen, I have met them, I've talked to them, I took their phone, and all of them have internet access on their phones. And all of them downloaded the ringtone for 500 Uganda shillings. And all of them have tried a football game on internet. So the possibilities are there. The thing is for us, and how do we do that? And I will end with the last slide, which is studies we've done, where you see that with every 1% increase in the mobile penetration, you actually have a relationship to the growth. And what I want to end with here is that today we're working with SMS. For us, that is not the solution. That is not the scalable solution. What we work with is the data with the web and internet accesses and the unprecedented opportunities for the next couple of years. And I think we already today have to think about not how can we benefit from that, because we know it's happening. Already today, feature phones, smartphones are starting to become very inexpensive, and the networks are building out, and there will be broadband availability. And if we not take that opportunity, we will actually help increase the digital divide rather than diminish it by not supporting and driving that type of accessibility to everyone. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Karin. Very interesting presentation there. One question following on from your digital divide that you brought up. It seems to me with the capacity that is already in the system, but it's the handsets that are not able to take full advantage of it yet, nor the donor-funded services that are being created. There seems to be a gap there in existence at the moment. Mm. What would you say would be the next steps that should be taken to scaling up that?
Well, I think it's not really about technology, because there are handsets and that will drive itself. It has driven itself. So it's more, how do we form these partnerships to benefit the different knowledges? How can we, and do we want to have, what do we mean by scale? We have to have a more of the discussion. What do we mean? How do we build partnerships? How do we have quick wins? How do we build for future? And how do we leverage on each other's competency? I think that's the only way forward.
I think it comes back to the point about whether startup funding is for a development project or whether it's for a business. And I think with development funding for ICT applications is certain other standards that are needed, whereas business startup is very much more on making it sustainable and into the long term. So there's a
I don't agree, there. Actually. I think there is no government who can afford to not be efficient and not do the right thing from the beginning. I think it's the same. Everyone has to cover their costs. And how do you use that in the most efficient way? And to find that, we need to talk about how you can do that. And I mean, the development issues about giving farmers equal access to actually get information as we have when we want to buy something which is not really important for us. That is a challenge which all governments and everyone should be concerned with and see what is the most efficient way of doing that. And everyone will be asked about what is the impact in relation to the cost spent. I don't see that as really contradictory at all.
Thank you. Right, do we have any questions in the audience for Karin? Yeah, the gentleman in the white shirt.
Thank you for a thrilling presentation. My question is simply, have you seen any results in the project on the lake? Has the number of deaths on the lake started going down after you started your project?
I would be very happy to be able to present those results. However, that is really tricky, and I wouldn't say that just because they have the alert, that would make a big difference. I think it's one piece of the puzzle. I also think that it's a little too early to start looking into that type of effect, which we of course want to measure. But we have interviewed the people who have used the service for now 8 months, and we see a significant difference in how they use the information and what they do with it, and they actually do change the behavior. They don't travel if they get the alert. they wait for the service before they go out, so they know what to do. And I think that is that type of evidence we can get right now.
Thank you. There's a question down at the front here.
Yeah, once again, thank you a lot for an interesting presentation. And I'm very impressed with your statistics and your well, your way of following up the projects you do. Do you just have any tips or just some help for a small company to be able to do that as well? I mean, how do you get that kind of information?
It depends on what information you're after. Can you be specific?
Not really, but you have several different projects, and as you said with the fishermen, it's a bit too early, and you were talking about interviews. You have other ways of collecting information of the process of your projects.
Okay. Again, this is an area where ICT really can be of help. Instead of doing interviews and sending people out, of course you have to have the services in different languages. And with these services, we have it in multiple languages for people to understand. And also the interview techniques, you have actually a number of tools where you can send out queries through the mobile phone. And they can be less or better. There is a number of those tools actually available. And there is also a couple of companies, one of them is described in the area where the business idea is that you recruit local people to gather data for you, and they get paid by airtime. Once the quality of the data is qualified, and they get more and more advanced data collection tools. So there is a lot of work in the area of data collection. But of course, you always have to be very good at defining the questions and verifying that you will get answers who actually are useful.
Karin, did you mean there that these people who are collecting the information, they get paid in airtime?
Yeah, that is a very common way of solving one of those areas.
My question is about providing specific weather information to areas, actually, because the Met system in Uganda has loopholes, of course. The information they provide is quite general. For example, I would be interested in specific data for the region where actually we operate from, but that is not available. And sometimes it is not accurate enough. They will tell you it will actually rain in the next 2 days and it will not happen. And that happens quite often. So you lose trust in the system. So how do you handle that on the like?
It's a very interesting question, and I think that is one of the challenges, the capacity and the competence of some of the content providers. And I totally agree with you. In Uganda, there is a lack of weather observation, but most of the weather data and forecast is made out of satellite information, which is available through the global network of meteorological information. So in this case, it's more about that the Met organization never was thinking about making the forecast local, which is one thing we have been working quite hard, and that's why we have WMO working with us on that, because I don't know anything about forecasts. But also, of course, the reliability, if it's not the correct data, of course everyone will lose trust. And I think that's a global question about forecasts. I don't know about other countries, but in Sweden we have like 80% accuracy or something of the forecasts, and we have a lot of skilled and technology to our help. So that is, of course, a very big challenge, and I don't have the answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right, well, thank you very much, Karin. We're just going to round off with get the speakers back on the stage to just field some further questions for about 15 minutes, and then we'll be closing up. So round of applause for Karin, please.